Hey there, toy collector friends, and of course Transformers fans alike. Welcome back to my channel. I am the time-traveling toy collector, and this is Optimus Primal, all the way from the new Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom season. Optimus Primal, you may have seen my quick reaction unboxing video. Not a figure I would initially ever have considered purchasing. I'm not a Beast Wars fan. I'm not someone who grew up with the Beast Wars. They were in my rearview mirror as I was moving away from the Transformers toy line. And actually this was a figure that I was encouraged to pick up by followers on Instagram when I was talking about the TV series and what I should branch into. And picking up Optimus Primal was a suggestion made to me. So this figure, as I say, not something I would ever have considered purchasing. I have to say, from the moment that I took it out of the box, I fell in love with it. He's not the most handsome brute, although of course that is objective, but he has some sort of character about him that I find really quite engaging. The detailing on his physical form is quite spectacular. Yes, we do have visible organic components around the fur. That's one of the reasons I think that I was able to move away, because I couldn't suspend my disbelief around the Beast Wars, he says, being a big fan of Dinobots, because it was an attempt to look, and I hope this makes some kind of sense to some of you, too realistic. Robotic dinosaurs, robots that turn into vehicles, that kind of stuff. I know I'm talking, it's the more I'm listening to myself and it's crazy. That kind of stuff I could suspend my disbelief for, but robots that wanted to transform themselves into realistic animals, yeah, I kind of sort of choked on the same concept with the Pretenders, which never really made sense to me. Anyone that's collected the Pretender, I did get one because I was curious, tried it, didn't like it. So you by all means can drop me a comment down below and tell me what you think the attraction to that would be. Similarly, I'm not comparing the two, so I don't want to start some all-out war, but I had the same vibe around the Rock Lord concept. I mean, why would you transform yourselves into rocks? Because, you know, it's and the endless hours of playability with robots that transform themselves into rocks. Yeah, to be fair, the Beast Wars score points against the Rock Lords. Why am I even talking about them? I don't know. I'm going to stop. Okay, so Optimus Primal. I'm going to zoom. Well, actually, that's me bringing him closer. But as a sculpt, I think he's really, really nice. He comes with these two swords, which I understand is indicative of his original appearance within the toy line and within the animated series for Beast Wars. Again, not something I've ever engaged with so far. I think I mentioned it in the previous outing, but you can see here I've extended out his concealed arm blasters. I'll take a little closer look at those in a moment. But yeah, all in all, let's get him in hand here. All in all, this as a figure has a lot going through. That's his blasters there. You can see the arm mounted blasters. They pop out from his forearms. He has one on either side. He's a very poseable, characterful figure. So I, for one, am really chuffed that I picked it up. In terms of all the necessary points of articulation, they are there. You've got elbow, you've got shoulders, you've got rotations in the wrist, you've got hip rotations, waist rotations, a lot of ball joints going on here, double hinge at the knee. Long story short, you have a lot of posability. This figure can give you a lot of options in terms of how he looks, how he can pose, and what sort of if you're into toy photography, what sort of actions you can give him. I'm just going to move him to the slightly to the side for now, because whilst he's in his robot mode, I'm just going to bring in another of the War for Cybertron primes. This is, of course, Optimus. So I'm going to have to reframe slightly, because as you can see, Optimus ever so slightly has the edge height-wise on Optimus Primal, but you can see that they do scale together quite nicely. But Optimus has that extra, well, I'd say extra headroom, really, just slightly takes it. But again, I think you can see the lovely homage to Optimus Prime in terms of the color scheme. Obviously the faceplate, very reminiscent, the white and red striping here, red, white and blue throughout the body, and some silver, as we have silver, blue and red throughout Optimus. So I think there's some nice through lines of the character colouring that are very true to the original and very true to the toy line in a very literal sense. Thanks Optimus. I'm now going to swap Optimus out and pop in the other key Prime from the Kingdom series, so spoilers potentially ahead if you've not seen it. Here we have Nemesis Prime. Sorry, I was just going to say the one that Optimus Primal thought and mistook Optimus Prime for upon his arrival into the series. But yeah, so here we have Nemesis Prime, giving us dark and moody. Again, scales very, very nicely with Optimus Primal, and I think there's going to be quite a bit of scope to bring these two into some toy photography further down the line. But I just wanted to do that just to give you a sense of comparison between the two, and also to give you an opportunity to see how how photogenic he is against a couple of his War for Cybertron Kingdom compatriots. Yeah, so for me, infinitely fun figure, lots of good posability, lots of playability. I am a sucker for concealed features, so you can imagine my delight and thrill at getting these arm-mounted cannons, concealed weapons, to actually be of some use. Yeah, I really like this figure, and I can really see me using him in some toy photography in the fullness of time. It's a really, really well sculpted, well balanced figure that really, I think, I can't deny that I'm pleased that I did pick up this figure. I would not have done so. Normally, I would not have done so. So that's in direct response to the advice of followers from Instagram and this channel. So thank you for that. I'm always willing to explore and dip in and dive in and investigate something different that I wouldn't normally look at. Okay, so this is Optimus Primal in his robot mode. In the second, I'm going to transform him into his Gorilla Ape Maximal Leader mode. Before I do that, I just want to remind everyone that I do have an Instagram channel, Time Traveling Toy Collector, where I do post quite a lot of toy photography. So if that's something that may interest you, then by all means head on over at the end of this video to my Instagram page and maybe give it a follow and have a look at some of the different things that I've been shooting recently and historically. In addition, whilst you're here, if you're finding this video of any use or any interest, why not hit that like button? And whilst you're doing that, you could give me a cheeky subscription to the channel, which would mean the world to me, and also turn on those notifications so you don't miss a single one. Okay, while you have a little ponder to think whether or not that's a good idea, believe me, it's a good idea, I'm going to transform him off screen so you don't have to listen to my swearing and profane language as I try desperately to get him to transform without breaking any bits off. Here we go. And there we are. So here is War for Cybertron Kingdom Optimus Primal in his beast mode, in his ape mode. That, I won't lie to you, that took a little bit longer than I expected. It started off being a really fun, straightforward and easy transformation. Then, as is so often the case with some of the newer figures, there's a little bit of brute force required to free up some of his upper chest section to get him from robot mode into beast mode. And it does have that sense of dread that I get, that I think I'm going to break something. And I had that exact feeling here with this figure. Okay, so positives first. There are two options of how to stand and how to configure beast mode Optimus Primal. This is one of them, which is the all fours format. There's also a slightly more Planet of the Apes standing on his hind legs format. I've gone for this version in the first instance because this, I think, is the most primal, shall we say, and primal seems to be appropriate. So here we have Optimus Primal in said beast mode. I'm hoping that I've done it justice. It's the first time I've ever actually done the full transformation. I think it works. I mean, there's some good articulation. His head can really, again, it's quite characterful, and I do like the fact that it can convey so much so easily. I'm just going to, before he jumps, I'm going to pick him up and bring him more into frame. So you can, you know, that's a very characterful expression that our Optimus Primal has there. Yeah, so I like it. I like the overall. I like the concealment of the robotic side. There is a few little bits and pieces where we can see the illusion come through. The hedges, as I've mentioned, very posable, gives us lots of posability options. And again, I think you can begin to see just from that initial posing how we can reframe the character to be a little bit more Planet of the Apes-esque in his position. The shoulder-mounted guns fold in for the purposes of transformation. I dare say that's a choice. You could probably have them out if you wanted to have him carrying them on his shoulders. It's a good figure down to his toes, his beastish toes he's got there. The detailing on the fur is very, very good. And again, I have to say, much like I was previously, I am extremely taken with the head sculpt. I think it's very, very effective. He does look every inch the brute that you would not necessarily wish to take on in any kind of, I was going to say armed combat, but probably unarmed combat is ever so slightly more threatening. So I'm just going to pop him back over here, so just realign these slightly for ourselves. Just pop him there back on the standing cube so we can get another bit of a close-up look. As I say, I'm surprised at myself with how much I do actually like the figure. I am quite taken with the figure. It isn't, as I've said several times before, the sort of figure that I would normally go for. It isn't the sort of figure that I would normally express an interest in. But I am really pleased with the transformation. Again, yes, are there little bits of the mechanics that are visible? Yeah, there are. But you know what? I think it's something that you can easily suspend your disbelief with, particularly if you're going to be using him in the context of toy photography. If you're going to play with him, then it really is fine, because I dare say if you're playing with him and you're anything like me when I played with mine as a child, then this guy is going to take quite the battering, and I dare say give out quite the battering, because he is quite the brute. So for me, yeah, an unexpected win in this figure. I would not necessarily have considered it something I would ever have gone ahead and purchased. I can't express enough how glad I am that I have done. So what can I say to summarize this? a decent figure, very good robot mode, very pliable, very posable, very strong joints. I think the beast mode is characterful. I think the sculpt is very, very well done. I think the transformation is straightforward, and now I've done it a few times, I suspect my own confidence, particularly in the central area transformation, which is very stiff, probably because he's new, but always gives me that cause for fear that something very, very unpleasant will happen and snap, which I am not a fan of when it comes to Transformers toys. But yeah, I think this is a lovely figure. Would I recommend him to a buyer? Would you be interested in acquiring him? Well, I think it's an acquired taste, to be honest. As I say, I wouldn't have gone for him had I not had him recommended, so allow me to do you the same service. I would recommend this figure. I can't comment on other Beast War characters yet because he's the only one that I have, but yeah, I would probably recommend going all out and getting maybe another couple just to complement this figure in any displays or any toy photography situations, so that you can really set him off and augment him along with the others you may acquire. So yeah, I'm gonna wind it up here and say, yeah, very, very top quality figure. I'm very glad I purchased it, and I must commend him to you as a future purchase if you don't already have him. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Has this helped you make up your mind? If it has, if it hasn't, do let me know in the comments below. I find all your comments very useful, or you can message me over at Time Traveling Toy Collector on Instagram, as I've mentioned earlier. So, will you purchase him? If you do, let me know. I'd love to know what you're doing with your figures, and whether you display them. Would you display them in beast mode? Would you display them in robot mode? Or would you change up between the two? Always fascinated to hear from fellow toy collectors. In the meantime, I've been the Time Traveling Toy Collector. This has been my review of Optimus Primal from the War for Cybertron Kingdom trilogy. And you've been a fantastic audience. So all it remains is for me to say that a thing of beauty truly is a toy forever. Maximals, roll out.